3, 2, 1.
Podcast. That's what's up.
We're in this bitch.
Today we're gonna be talking about reality versus imagination.
What's real?
What's imagination?
I'm so glad you said that, Joe.
For real, what's the difference?
No one knows.
That's what we're here to find out.
All right, so
That's what you're here to find out.
More
that's
so.
facts. All right, so let's start by asking what's real to you.
Well, I guess what's real to me right now is this table, this microphone, this podcast.
Everything I see, hear, smell, taste,
Yes.
everything, not even just the 5 senses we were taught in school. You have a lot more senses than that, but everything that your body can process, that sends signals from one part of your body all the way to your brain. And then your brain sends the signal back to...
So things that are tangible that you can experience
Yes.
personally.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
that's what most people would argue is real.
Okay.
Well, anything that can be touched or, felt in the flesh.
So is the opposite of that imagination?
The opposite of something tangible would be something untangible.
But something that you can't really touch could still be real, as in,
Like love.
yeah,
You know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure the same people who would argue it's not real if you can't touch it definitely believe love is
Like,
real.
yeah, I could feel
You know.
bad, and that's just as real as a feeling to me than it is if I were to get, like punched or something. It would
Yes.
still hurt.
Those are both experiences and
And,
amounts
like-
of suffering.
If I get hurt, my feelings get hurt and I'm feeling bad on the inside, you're not going to feel that. Does that make that less real to me? I don't think so.
So can you explain that again?
Well, me and Anthony and you can all agree that this notebook here on the table is real, right?
Very so.
We're looking at it, we can see it, we can read the words on there, we can touch it. I believe that it's real.
So do I.
So the only thing that really makes it real is that we all share the belief that we can see it right there.
Yes.
If it wasn't real, it wouldn't be there.
Probably
If
a good
I could
question.
see it and Joe couldn't see it, we would start questioning if it was real or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So what about something like unicorns? We can imagine it. It's not here right now. We can't see it. Nobody's ever seen one.
But you say unicorn and everyone thinks of a unicorn.
So is it real?
I believe it is real. It exists in its absence, and there's been tons of things created with the idea of unicorns that are tangible. You know what I mean? There's a million unicorn plushies in stores, but you're never going to find an actual unicorn.
So how did someone come up with the idea of a unicorn? Did they take two things that already existed, like maybe
A unit and a corn?
Well, a horse and something with like a fucking stabby thing.
A horse and a rhino, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Did they
And
just mix the
glitter.
two? Like, where did that original idea come from?
Yeah.
It only can be made up of what's here. Any
Can-
idea.
Can you come up with anything brand new?
It's just
You know,
elaborate on more so
you're
in
really-
a different connotation.
So maybe imagination is just the things that you can think of.
but aren't right now.
Yeah, basically, you take
like
a
that.
bunch of physical items that you can see, they're in your physical reality, and you kind of mix them together to create something new.
Yeah, that's how
Would that
anything's
be an
created.
imagination? But the second you create it, it becomes real.
Yeah, it's like imagine until you do enough, and it's real.
Because if I see a unicorn in real life, and I see a unicorn in my head, it's stored in the same part of my brain.
That's so fucking crazy, by the way.
Like, memory is weird because you can imagine something that's not necessarily real in your physical reality in your head, and it will be stored in the same part of your brain as if I'm looking at this microphone. It's stored in my brain.
I think it goes more so to the idea of that you have like a stream of thinking always, and that's what you correlate to being like yourself, what you think, what you are so like identify as you, and you can't really differentiate the two because one is being and like how you said one's not being. It's just like that point of here that makes one real. Because you only can be real of like one thing. You can't be real for everything because then you have issues that way. So you need like only certain things real so everything else could be unreal and vice versa.
Yeah, you need to have at least a few things that you know for sure are real to base everything else on.
Exactly.
Real or not.
Perspective.
Like, you can't imagine a color you've never seen before because you don't have
a basis
any
for
of the
new
resources.
Colors.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can mix the colors and create a new color.
Yeah,
Once you've seen it, you know, hey, this is what that color looks like.
But that's just
made
two
it.
of the same
Like
colors you knew.
Like scientists can always find, an infinite number of new shades of color, but they're not gonna find a brand new color.
There's still RBG, red, blue, green. That's what we base all the colors off. They're just mixed in. That's interesting.
Very interesting. So to summarize, what did we just talk about?
So basically, what I want to say is, say the color like brown, it didn't exist until it was seen.
Yeah.
Which is that's an interesting topic because we can only see the things inside of this podcast room right now. Is anything outside of this podcast room? Is it real to us right now?
That's like Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah, definitely. It goes back to that quantum mechanics, episode 1, by the way.
You should definitely go back and watch that.
But it's the idea of superpositioning, where if you have an equal chance for both yes and no, and you don't observe it, is both in the yes and no state. Only until the observer sees it, it has to divide to either one side of the state so you can process it and be real.
Yeah, and just to clarify for everyone who might not know, a superposition is when it could go either way.
Yeah, it's undecisive, so it is both answers.
Like, if I don't know if Isaiah, shout out, he's another person that works here.
You should watch his content.
Yeah, if I don't know that he's about to enter this room right now, it could be yes or no. So it's in both states right now. It's a yes and it's a no.
Yeah, but until he either walks in or doesn't walk in for like a certain amount of time, we'll never know if he was about to walk in. Yeah, in the same way that you don't know if the cat in the box is dead or alive until you check.
Exactly.
But then also, if you believe something to be real, is that when it becomes real? Like, if I believe that there's a dog on this table and I really believe it, it's real to me. But you guys can't see it.
Yeah, you probably look fucking crazy to us. Saying there's a dog barking right now, like, I don't see no fucking dog.
What if I really, am experiencing that dog, though?
Exactly. Who says which one's the right one?
I say we can flip that dog around and we can talk about God. Say, let's pretend that God doesn't exist. I'm not going to challenge your beliefs on, either way. But let's pretend that for the sake of this, God doesn't exist. Right? If half the world still believes he does exist and the other half believes he doesn't exist, and that one half of the world, created a whole ton of religions and influenced the entire history of the world based on something that doesn't exist, didn't the lack of a God have an impact on that society?
Expand upon that.
I think, in a sense, that God does exist, or their idea of God exists, because they're saying, oh, this thing up here, it exists, it's all-encompassing, it's almighty, it's great. And they're using that in a way to, I don't know, structure society. That God that they believe in is affecting that society in a way. Like, just the idea of it existing has an effect, a great effect.
So what are we talking about? Are we talking about cause effect, superposition, God? What are you trying to say?
I think we're talking about shaping your reality by believing in things.
So the belief of God equally creates the unbelief of God.
Like, it doesn't matter if God is real or not, because the belief in God has still had an effect on society. So even if God weren't real, his lack of presence still
caused a presence
on the table.
Had an effect. Yeah,
true.
Very interesting.
So in that way, something that doesn't necessarily physically exist can still affect things.
So
Definitely.
If you're imagining something in your brain, you know, some crazy dude in your brain that's out to get you, you know, even if he's not actually there, he's definitely influencing your behavior.
Yes,
You
now
know,
I
you're
see
gonna
how it
start-
loops back around.
Yeah, you're going to start going crazy, and you're going to be like, this dude in my head, you know, I got to get him out.
Yeah, goes back to the dog.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's interesting. So what makes something more or less real? More people believing that it's there?
Yeah, that's another thing, I feel like.
It definitely ties in with how much they're suffering or who's suffering.
Yeah, because, like, if I feel an immense amount of pain, that's going to seem like, oh, that was really real. I know
Experience.
because
Yes.
I felt that.
But imagination, it requires little to none sacrifice, you know, suffering. So that's why it doesn't feel real in a way.
Well, it does, because imagine
Well, I
if we're living in a society that's hell, right?
Yeah.
What if we imagine in our heads like a world of like utopia? It's so peaceful. Wouldn't that make regular, like normal day life a lot worse than it
Yeah.
is?
Well, it's relative.
If you're in hell and you get a glimpse of heaven,
Hell feels so much worse than it did before you saw
because
heaven.
now you know that heaven, or you know, it's a place that exists in your mind. You're like, man, I'm back in this hellish society now. I want to get out. I want to go to that heaven place, but it's only real in my imagination. So how do I create that reality given what I can imagine?
Yeah. And I feel like another or a good analogy for this might be, you know, like the crackhead or the meth head. You know, before, you know, a meth addict tried meth, they had no idea what they were missing out on. They were completely fine not
Exactly.
having it. Once they tried meth and their dopamine levels went 20 times higher than they've
Fucking
ever
crazy.
been. Yeah.
They have a new high mark, a new bar to set.
Yeah, basically. It's like, wow, I've been all the way up here. You know, I've been at the peak. I need to reach that peak again.
If not
But
more.
nothing will ever compare to that peak, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Everyday life will seem comparatively so much worse.
So we're talking about setting a bar and hell and heaven. How does this tie into suffering and belief in reality and imagination?
So if like just your normal everyday life, like you don't like it, and you get a glimpse of heaven, normal day life's gonna get a lot worse in comparison to what
Yes, relative.
you experienced in your head. You know, so. What if enough people got together and they believed that, oh, this is heaven, you know, this is like we're already here type deal.
Yes, now I see where you're trying to go with this.
And then they started to like believe that collectively,
You know?
but like actually believe it, no doubts or anything, nothing stopping them.
Yeah, like if you believe hard enough, like if everyone unconditioned themselves and then believed this new condition, it would have the properties of that because we're believing it so hard.
yeah, it's like you can convince yourself you like it,
Yeah.
to be honest.
It's the idea
Like-
we conditioned ourselves to logical understandings of reality, that reality follows principles. That's how we're able to fathom this constantly, because we set in principles subconsciously to ourselves. But if we're to uncondition that somehow, and recondition that we're already in heaven to everyone, well, would that not be heaven?
Yeah, right.
So what gets in the way of that?
Disagreements.
People being ungrateful.
Yeah.
Essentially. This isn't heaven because
Well,
this
who def-
bad thing happened.
Yeah, who defines the heaven? Like, you know.
Yeah, I think each person individually defines the heaven because they can make excuses for themselves. You know, we all know karma, whatever. Every action has an equal but opposite
Definitely.
reaction.
That works in every aspect of
So,
realms, reality.
if someone thinks that they deserve what they get, you know, they're gonna be in this like place where they're like, okay, this bad thing happened to me, but I deserved it. So it's not gonna affect me as much as if I believe like I didn't deserve this bad thing that just happened to me. This is hell.
Yeah.
I'm better than this. You know? Whereas if
You're-
they think that they don't deserve it, like say someone with like a low self-esteem,
Yeah,
you know,
I
they
see.
get something better than what they expected. They're like, oh,
It goes down to ungratefulness.
yeah, they're like, this is great, you know? I just experienced this thing that I didn't think I was going to be able to experience ever because I don't even think I deserved that. But it was great.
So there's this kind of line of neutrality that we could follow.
I think expectations maybe shape our
Yeah.
reality
Yeah.
when Like, we expect certain things
Yeah,
to be
like
real.
kind of expecting the future makes the future in a way.
Like, if you wake up expecting that something good is going to happen and then nothing that good ends up happening, you're going to be disappointed even though nothing bad happened.
Yeah, expectations always leave room for disappointment.
Yeah, so
Or beneficial stuff, but it's supposed to work equally like that.
Yeah.
and your expectations are essentially imaginary. You know, you make them up in
Yeah,
your
they-
head. So that's another example of how your
Ooh.
imagination affects reality.
Very so.
Yeah, that's another example of how imagination could shape reality.
Expectations, definitely. We found that one.
Because
That's what I
what
just
makes
said.
something real is whether or not you can feel it.
Yeah.
And you just feel good or you feel bad. There's really no in between.
Yeah,
I
this-
guess that's just when you're bored.
Yeah.
And then you start making expectations.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to start doing this and this will happen.
Yeah. And when you're bored, you're like, I'm going to care about this.
So
Yeah,
like the senses are just the outlet for expectations. They create
Yeah,
desire
maybe.
or
Yeah, that's a good way
selflessness.
of putting it.
Yeah. Nice.
That's pretty deep.
The senses are an outlet of expectations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
You
much.
heard it
'Cause
here.
First.
if all my senses aren't being, messed with, I'm bored. I want to feel something. So I'm gonna do this so I could feel this.
Would you
Yeah, and
even
you'll
want to
seek either
feel something?
Huh?
Would you even want to feel something if you weren't conditioned in the first place?
I mean, what do you mean conditioned in the first place?
Like, if you had nothing to think about, would you even know what to think about? Like, would the idea of being bored be fathomable?
Well, I do think that if you have nothing to think about, you have everything to think about. Because if you have nothing
Yeah,
to think
definitely,
about,
yes.
it's
There we
all
go.
imagination.
You don't need to get so close to the mic.
Sorry if I'm peeking the mic, audience.
Yeah, so, like, what were we talking about?
Reality.
Reality, guys! Whoa!
Yeah, okay,
Whoa.
so, your senses are an outlet for expectation.
Yes.
I'm bored. I don't have anything to think about, which means I have everything to think about. I could be doing this. I could be doing that. Oh, wait, look. This happened in my past. Now I feel bad about that. Let me do something so I could feel good. Or I could feel bad.
Oh, that works kind of... That's cool. Like, the future can shape expectations, so can the past, in a way.
Yeah, definitely the past. Because why do a lot of people do the things that they do?
Because they had-
feel bad.
It was it...
Based on
Miss Brendo, shout out
Yeah.
Miss Brendo. It's like
epic.
Did it die?
that camera's dead. This camera, yo. So Miss Brendo, how was she kind of saying? Definitely our past shapes our now and later because it's like coping mechanisms. Like you don't want to get hurt by something, so I touch fire. Okay, I don't want to touch fire no more. I learned not to touch fire.
Yeah, like basically nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
You have this DNA that's in you that makes you who you are, but also your behavior is a lot of the times determined by the consequence of your actions.
You can be a human, but if you're raised by wolves, you're gonna act like a wolf. You know.
But you're still human,
Exactly.
so it's paradoxical.
I wouldn't call it paradoxical, but it's kind of contradictory.
This is where
so.
the art of dualism gets in the way and causes problems. Because if you try to define one to explain the other, then you just gotta loop yourself back around.
Yeah, do you want to explain that a little more?
Like if you try to choose either a nurture or a nature, you're just gonna see variables to head more to nature until you see more variables again that head back to nurture.
Oh, so you're talking about how nature and nurture, the more you look at it, they are essentially just kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, okay, my ancestors passed and their experiences affect mine. Like, I find that a lot of the things that I desire are what my dad also, desires, which he probably got from his dad and on based off their experience, so...
Oh, so desire just gets subdivided.
Yeah. Oh, 'cause my ancestors, can learn how to kill an animal with a rock, right? And that's their experience. But that experience of theirs led to my creation,
Yeah.
and then their nurture leads to my nature.
Yeah.
It's also just subdivided desire because back then their desire, what was it? Fucking to take shits, eat, sleep. And we just divided those desires into so many ways so we could trick ourselves that we have a lot to do.
Yeah, we have our same main 4 or 5 needs, which really can be condensed down to one need.
Yeah, living, not death.
Like I need to be alive, you know, or we need to be alive.
Yeah.
Right.
I need to be alive, and if I need to be alive, that comes with having to eat, that comes with having to drink water, that comes with all my urges that I get,
need to reproduce, need to sleep, need, you know.
A lot of shit.
Everything. A lot of shit, for real.
Yeah. And then you also get bored, so that's when imagination starts kicking in.
And desire
you
increase.
create reality with your imagination.
Yeah, and those main, 5 or so needs are the basis for all your other needs, right? Why are you going to work today? Because I need money. Why do you need money? Because I need to eat. Why do you need to eat? Because I'm alive.
Yeah.
Pretty much, it boils down to that always.
So the spawn of all desire is basically, I want to be alive.
Yes. I want to be here, so I want this. Because it helps me continue being here. So, if someone wants something that brings them pleasure, they want to be here.
Yeah, basically we all desire,
instant
comfort.
gratification.
Instant gratification, that's a big one, which is
want
basically
what we want when we want it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Comfort and security. But think about this.
That slaps.
What if we always got what we wanted when we wanted it?
I like that thought a
Would
lot.
that be boring? No surprises?
Yeah.
It's like, the cavemen, again, they have their urges fulfilled. And once they have that fulfilled that basic desire, they subdivide the desire to only want more again. They get greedy with the desire. Insatiability,
The man who has everything has nothing.
Exactly.
And that goes back to what you were saying about the dualism, because, if you have everything,
you have nothing.
It's essentially like you have nothing. You can do whatever you want. So what can you do that brings you some kind of actual feeling?
Just the wave.
Yeah.
And I have a theory to propose to you guys. Basically that what you are at your core is this infinite consciousness where anything could exist and you're like completely unlimited. Because if you're completely unlimited, you can do anything that you want whenever you want, but you also know the outcome of it, so it's not like gonna ever give you any like pleasure. You can try to get pleasure, but you already know that it's coming, kind of like a surprise birthday. If you know that it's gonna be a surprise, it's not a surprise, and you don't really feel as emotionally intrigued by it. So what if you just kind of like put a veil over that identity of yourself and put yourself in this limited reality? I'm limited by my body, by what other people think, by the government, we're all limited. What if we put ourselves in this limited reality so we can feel free, in a sense?
Yeah, and that also goes back to non-dualism again, because like you said, we want to feel free, so we put ourselves into a less free reality than
than being completely unlimited. Because
if you're completely free, you don't have anything to do. Like if you're playing Grand Theft Auto, I don't know if I'm allowed to even say that.
You're playing a video game with
God mode. If you're playing a video game with God mode on, you're gonna get bored of the game within 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's no challenge. There's challenge here. There's a lot of challenge here.
Then you're just hitting buttons without meaning. So in order to give meaning to life, what we did was we limited ourselves so that we can associate more subjective feelings and labels and properties to things.
Yes.
Because when you feel absolutely free, the only thing keeping you from being absolutely free is yourself.
Yeah, why do I feel this good?
Yeah.
Like what should be wrong right now?
Yeah.
How many times have you, been having the time of your life, and then you're like, oh, why do I feel like, why am I having such a good time right now? And then you're racking your brain trying to think of reasons why you should be upset.
Or possibly because you want to prolong it.
Or maybe like even the opposite of that is true. Like, man, why am I so upset right now? Like, I don't even think that I deserve this.
And then it allows for that. Our dualism has an equally good effect.
That goes back to expectation.
Yeah, so dualism is a big-ass problem.
I wouldn't even call it a problem. Well, it's a problem.
I'd say it's a blessing.
It's a
and curse.
problem and a solution.
Yeah.
Like, literally, we are able to make things happen so that reactions can happen.
Yeah.
So that we don't have to stay doing the same thing forever.
Yes, I agree.
And I think that's a pretty solid conclusion.
Yeah.
Decides
So,
on this.
is there a difference between reality and imagination? Is it all just one?
I don't think so. I think you're everything that you know. You know, everything out here in the tangible world is simply just a reflection of everything within you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know, and everything you experience is just based on everything that you are.
Because you had to experience it for it to even exist for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It starts with you.
Reality is subjective.